You are listening to CrossTalk, a safe place to discuss addiction, recovery, harm reduction, and everything in between. Support for this podcast comes from the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort and Advocates of Recovery. Content and production by the team at Turning Point Recovery Community Center. Now, buckle up and get ready for the show.
Welcome everyone to CrossTalk Recovery, the recovery podcast that supports all forms of recovery. My name is Matt Lewis, and I'm here with
Nathan Brockett, Ian Harris.
Welcome, Ian. Welcome, Nathan. Back again. This is going to be fun, man, because Ian is a brother we've known for a while now.
Oh, yeah.
Works out at Centerpoint, where me and Nathan both went through. He's been friends with a lot of guys I've sponsored through there.
Yeah.
Good dude.
Mm-hmm.
So we're happy to have him on. He told me that he likes listening to podcasts. And so I was like, well, come on, man. Let's talk some recovery.
Yeah.
And so we invited him on, and he's going to be here and talk a little bit about his recovery journey and what got him to Centerpoint and put him in our paths.
Hey, I bet I can guess what got him to Centerpoint.
How he got there, That's the fun part, right? But yeah, man.
Yeah, welcome, dude.
Ian, welcome.
Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
Of course.
Yeah,
this is something like you said. I'm a big podcast fan in general, anyway. So to be able to participate in one and something that I'm passionate about with friends of mine is a pretty cool experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah. So tell us about what you want to share about your history and
Sure.
Through the madness. What got you to be working in recovery today?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I don't think I'll hold anything back. I'm pretty much an open book.
Yeah.
I established early on, I didn't much mind if everyone out there knew when I was in the madness and, doing the things that I was doing, strung out, so I kind of established an identity that I was going to be, if I was going to do this thing, I was going to do it wide open. I'll tell,
Just own it. Yeah.
Yeah, tell anybody. And also as a person, obviously occupationally, who works in recovery, but just as someone who, believes thoroughly in the idea of helping others, the more open I am, the more opportunities that I'll have in order to help people.
I agree.
Right.
And I'm lucky, my wife is open about it, and I've had doors have opened through her for me to help people in her life and kind of all around, my parents. So it's pretty neat, so I think, that was kind of, the universe showing me that being open about it was, would give me opportunities. But
yeah, for sure.
As far as the madness goes, man, I always start by saying this, and I don't know whether there's any science behind it, but I believe that I've been an addict and alcoholic my entire life.
Yeah.
And if I believe that that's established in my identity and in my behavior as opposed to substances, then I have to look back at my behavior and my identity, going back throughout my childhood and,
addictive personality.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And anything in the world that made me feel good, whether that be, affirmations through athletics or academics or whatever, I kind of came to the conclusion that I really didn't much care about the accomplishments as much as I did the feeling that I got when somebody told me,
accolades.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's reflected heavily in my substance use and my addiction, and still today. I'm no saint. I'm not perfect today, and I still find myself doing some of that. And a lot of that, even in recovery through sponsorship and working in recovery. Sometimes you feel good if you teach a class and something. Man, that was an awesome class, or go somewhere and you speak. And it's like, man, that was awesome. I just have to be careful because I know that's who I am.
Right, because you get people coming up to you afterwards saying they really connected with it. And that feels good, and that's the point of it, right?
Absolutely.
You want to touch somebody and reach somebody, but also, we got to stay humble,
Absolutely.
We're not... Some people are better speakers than others. I was really struggled with public speaking when I started this journey, and now I'm still not great at it. But now I won't shut up. And I'm hosting a podcast, and I go speak and give my testimony all the time, and play and sing music. And it's just you get to a point where it just becomes normal. Yeah. It's ego under control, staying humble, so crucial.
from my childhood, having those behaviors and kind of that identity, and transitioned into, you know, early teenage years where I think majority of kids and people start to experiment. You know, I think it's easy for me to see today why I latched so heavily onto substances, because, you know, it was an instantaneous. I had to, you know, instead of having to make good grades on a test to get that good feeling or play good in an athletic event, I could just, you know, use a substance and wait 30 minutes or however long, you know. And
yeah, and then feel like you're Superman or whatever, you know, like you don't need anybody else patting you on the back. You patted yourself on the back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the confidence and those things that go along with it, you know. And I think, you know, I say all the time to sponsees and to the guys at Centerpoint and just people in their meetings, and I'm like, you know, my brain, and I'll speak for myself, but I think you guys would echo this, you know, the way that my brain works is when something comes into my body or into my brain that makes me feel good, my brain automatically registers, I want to feel like this all the time. Whereas someone, a normal person or someone outside of this world says, sure, I want to feel like this all the time, but I have to go to work tomorrow. Or but it costs too much money.
Or the people who don't like losing control of their, like, you know,
moderation.
I was always willing to just give up all control of anything and be blacked out and run. But some people are like, no, that makes me where I don't know what I'm doing.
And I'm feeling dizzy.
Right. And I don't have that catch.
Right.
You know, usually I have to be caught, whether that's legally, you know, like financial, you know, that's usually when it's like, okay, now maybe we'll look into something different. But, you know, I was introduced to sobriety at an early, I'm 31 now, and I went to treatment for the first time when I was 20 years old. I went to a private treatment center called Cumberland Heights in Nashville, Tennessee. Wonderful place.
I've heard good things.
And, wonderful place. And that was where I was introduced to the 12 steps, you know, basically having no real knowledge of any 12-step program or anything of that nature. That was kind of like my introduction to all of that entire world. And you know, I'm a person that, you know, throughout my entire life would you know, I had a real issue with higher power and things like that. And, you know, recovery was the first place where I was kind of told that I could have my own conception of that, whatever that may be.
Right.
So, you know, going through Cumberland Heights, I enjoyed that, and I came out and I did it. I did what the people there told me that I needed to do to stay sober, and what do you know, I stayed sober.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, you fast forward through time 3-4 years later, and I had started to receive some of those promises that, you know, obviously, like I always say, like, surprise, surprise, I started doing the right thing and my life got better. You know, like, what a profound thing. But I think a lot of those things sort of were at a point, I think, subconsciously or consciously, wherever, I started to take credit for some of that stuff and forgot about the program and you know, what I had prior as opposed to what I have now. And what's changed? Well, the program is what I've implemented, and what do you know, now that my life's changed. So you know, over time it just, you know, I stopped doing all the things. I dropped my sponsees. I stopped, you know, doing all of the things that were asked of me in the program.
Right.
And I can remember one day I was sitting at my office. I was an insurance agent. I was sitting in my office, and I was like, man, if I could just smoke a joint right now, things would be so, you know, I would calm down at work. You know, I've got my girlfriend at home and a house and all these things. And all of those things that were truly blessings started to feel like burdens at that point. And I entertained that thought for about a year. That was probably at about 4 years sober, and I didn't put one in me till I was 9 days short of 5 years. And you know,
so you had emotionally and mentally relapsed already, and that always comes first. You know,
100%.
And then it's just like white knuckling and waiting till the right opportunity, or it all comes to like astonishingly difficult to solve all at once. You know, and I'm sure throughout that year almost you were, you know, fantasizing about it, thinking 100%. About it. This would be so much better with this or this. You know,
Yes, and you know, I had just enough knowledge of recovery to be like, at the beginning, be like, sure, a joint would be nice, but, you know.
Right.
But as time.
Playing the tape ahead.
That's right.
Yeah.
But as time progressed, that started to fade.
Yeah.
You know, because at my core, I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and like you said, you'd stop doing all the things that were
Absolutely.
going to help you to keep you focused on what you should be
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
You were trained enough to notice it and catch it early, but the further you got away from
That's
all
right.
that stuff, then
I had no defense.
that voice becomes real quiet.
That's right. And then, you know, you get to a point where it's like you said, whether it's the perfect set of circumstances or whatever it may be. And at that point, it's like I turn around and I've got no defense.
Yeah.
And I go back to what my default is.
100%.
You know, and I numb out and I use, you know, I'm a big, I speak a lot now, and, you know, I'm a I wouldn't say a victim, but opioids were my drug of choice. So
Right.
with the opioid epidemic now, and, you know, I end up at a lot of funerals, unfortunately, with the way that our world is today, and with me living in that world for so long. So it's something that I'm passionate about, and I always know that, you know, at that right short of that 5-year mark, when I smoked that joint, you know, I instantly knew where I was headed, and that was back to opioids. You know, whether they be prescription or street.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm blessed and I'm lucky that I only when I relapsed, I knew pretty quickly, you know, or I knew instantly, you know, that I had made a mistake, and I was able to, you know, speak with the people that in my life about it, and the next thing you know, I was back in treatment.
Yeah.
I went to a short-term treatment center in July of 2020. Came out of there essentially taking the things that I'd learned the first time and trying to sharpen those and correct the things that maybe didn't work for me. It was a blessing, honestly. It gave me the life that I have today.
Yeah.
It gave me the kind of recovery that I have today, kind of all-encompassing, you know, fully surrounding myself with recovery, being, like I told you guys, open about it and, you know, proud of it to a point, you know.
Yeah, that's what I tell anybody who goes back out for a period of time. Like, the first thing I'll say is, I'm glad you made it back. And the second thing I'll say is, I hope you learned what you needed to learn, you know, to get it right this time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, you know, throughout time in recovery and sobriety, you hear that reiterated, whether it's through the phrase controlled drinking or whatever it may be. So that idea has been around for a long time. You know, because not everybody's at the same stage. Right. And, you know, not everybody is going to get it the first time, you know, and I think that's our nature, you know, you know, if you don't do everything perfectly right or do everything correctly, some of that may creep back in. And the odds are, if you haven't tried it enough times, maybe you don't fully know. Maybe you're not fully convinced. And I think that I was. I'm pretty sure I knew I was fully convinced. I just didn't care at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so I'd made a decision while I was in treatment. I'd always chased, you know, finances and things like that. And I was like, you know, when I get out of here, I think working in recovery is something that I want to pursue. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have really I've always gone to treatment out of state. So my connections to my hometown, which is here, are limited, you know. Yeah. But I was, you know, I was going to meetings every day, multiple meetings a day. So I was meeting people through that and meeting people through AA and things like that. And, you know, I was actually joined a home group here with a lot of the members of management from Centerpoint. Mm-hmm. And I developed relationships with them. And, you know, the next thing you know, you know, I was coming up on a year's sobriety, which was the threshold for most recovery jobs as far as applying, right? Yeah. And I was like, well, what can I do to you know, help my chances of working in recovery? So I found out about peer support. So I went to Elizabethtown and I took the course and passed my test so that I could put that on a resume. And, you know, I applied for some jobs and just nothing was panning out. And I remember talking to my wife and I was like, you know, well, maybe it's just not meant to be. And I was like, all right, I'll see. I'm going to go to a meeting. So I go to the meeting, and we're standing outside in the smoke yard after, and, you know, I was approached by an administrator at Centerpoint, and I was kind of voicing my problems to their problems, you know, what I conceived as problems at the time. Right. And he's like, well, why don't you put in an application at Centerpoint? And I was like, I'll be honest, my first impression was like, I don't know anything about Centerpoint. Like I've heard it's a Department of Corrections facility. I don't know if that's for me. That's not that hasn't been my story or my experience.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, what the heck? So I put my application in there, and apply, get an interview, boom, and they hire me. And I was like, kind of like, oh crap! Like here
it is.
Yeah, I don't know that I was fully expecting that, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, did you know it's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland because they get lonely? Here at Turning Point, we don't want you to ever be lonely either. That's why we're open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Always feel free to come hang with our friendly staff, and don't forget your guinea pig. We're located at 415 Broadway Street, downtown Paducah.
Did you know that recovery from substance use disorder and mental health go hand in hand? That is why the caring and compassionate mental health professionals at Four Rivers Behavioral Health in Paducah are here to help you find your balance. They are proud of you for making the changes necessary to live a healthier life and would love to see you reach your full potential. Give them a call at 270-442-7121 or stop by the downtown location at 425 Broadway in Paducah, Kentucky.
Centerpoint is I could sit here, we could talk, and I know you guys would do the same thing. We could talk for hours and hours on Centerpoint. There's just something about that place. It's a special place.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special place, and the people in it make it special. So to be a small part of that is, I couldn't ask for anything more, And you guys have your own experience with Centerpoint. I know you kind of have, your own love and adoration for that place. And it's, I remember when I first started, Brandon was who hired me, and he was showing me around or whatever, and I really didn't know what I was walking into, so I'm like dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
And like
you're always dressed sharp.
Yeah, you are.
I appreciate that. But I was really, it's like first day on the job.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like being a sharp, and I can just see, man, like I'm just getting, these guys are like, who the hell is this? Like, does he work for
Is he really one of us?
Yeah. Is this somebody's attorney?
Right. Yeah.
And it was just funny over time, like to kind of see that wear down and me get to know some of the guys, and then maybe they see me in street clothes, and they're like, oh, well, never mind, he's covered in tattoos. Maybe he is one of us, and I've heard that several times too. But it's really cool to think about then to where I'm at today, where it's like I'm firmly grounded in that place, And
100%.
Oh yeah.
And it's just cool to see how that's changed, And if I would have acted on fear that day at that AA meeting, I would have never been introduced to this. And I could name a million different things that have happened in my life as a result of making that decision, all of positive,
Right.
And that place, like I said, it's helped me stay sober. I've been able to meet so many friends, people like you all. Like my entire world is sort of wrapped around this Centerpoint, all of the tentacles of Centerpoint that go out into this area, and people don't even realize how much of them do.
Yeah.
And to be, like I said, to play a small part in that, man, it's amazing.
Right.
And I've recently come back to Centerpoint after I worked there for about 3 years, and what do you know, made another decision based on finances. Still stayed within the realm of recovery and went and worked, for another provider, and it was good for me, and I still to this day think that was the right decision, but I also know it was the right decision for me to come back.
Right.
And there's been in the opportunities that have kind of presented themselves in the meantime since I've come back have kind of just established that for me and proved that for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I know that's something I've seen happen, not just with you, but with other guys that work there and the people who have worked here, and that's all under the Four Rivers umbrella over here at Turning Point. So people go, I've struggled with the finance thing from time to time, because there's not a lot of money in recovery.
Absolutely not.
I know that the spiritual rewards I can't find anywhere else.
Sure.
Not working in recovery. I know that I have everything I need.
Sure.
But you start believing we're supposed to be building our lives back and getting better and better. So I got to be moving forward. And sometimes, like you said, it wasn't a wrong decision for you, but you realize like this is where you belong, right? And I have not left yet, like some people have, but I've had to battle that, and I think I see in other people go and come back. It makes me know I'm in the right place because like I don't need to go through that. It was like with so many other things in recovery, now I try to learn from other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Not necessarily their mistakes, but learn from other people and their experiences.
Yeah.
Like
that's how this recovery thing's worked for me. Watching how other people have done it. I'm emulating what other folks are doing that I look up to. And the next thing you know, I'm like them. I'm doing things that they spoke about and stuff like that. So it's a big part of what I do for sure. And to hear that that you've left and came back, and now you're even more so established than you were previously. It's like I forgot to put my phone on silent, by the way. Anyways,
but yeah, exactly. He came back. But that wasn't immediate. You came back and then you got the gig. Yes. So
right.
What's the title?
As a caseworker supervisor.
Okay. Yeah, and that's awesome, man.
Sure.
That's basically what Brandon was when he hired you, right? Yeah. And now we work for Brandon.
Yeah.
And maybe one day he'll move on.
I love that fact of how this, the recovery thing works for us, because we were people walking those halls. And now we are part of decision-making processes that affect the individuals walking those halls. And being able to have that experience of what it was like, those feelings and stuff like that, and make decisions based off of, I've been there, I know what the needs are, makes it that much better. You know what I mean? We're able to actually represent the folks that we serve, because we are those folks. Yeah. And the fact that you went where you went and you come back, I mean, I'm sure you brought a major bunch of experience back with you. Sure. All the things that you've done. And I know the guys love having you there. I hear nothing but good things about since you moved on to that role. So.
And it's like I said, man, the guys are what make that job special, and I think probably a large part of exactly what we're talking about, as far as whether it's the beauty of Centerpoint as a program and as a building, and this recovery thing as a general, is that you look to, I'm lucky enough now to be a member of an administrator there, a member of the management team, making decisions, which has always been my dream. But I'll look at the people sitting around me, and majority of them walked those halls.
For sure.
And I mean, that's as powerful as it gets. I mean, if I'm a guy, I'm a consumer, and I'm sitting in there, and the site administrator walks in and says, "Hey, they brought me in here in chains. You all need to do this."
Okay.
Yeah, right. Like the response is so much different, and I think that plays a big role into it. But I also believe that it's just kind of the perfect mix of people. I think there's people there, the program there. I just kind of think it's like the perfect formula, if you ask me, and I think that's shown like in our success rate. And whatever you deem as success, whatever that looks like. I see a lot of people like you all every single day. That have been sober for years and are doing amazing things and getting married and having children, finding careers. Like, I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, I take that for granted because we see it fairly often under this Four Rivers umbrella, but it's not the norm.
Right.
No,
100%. I agree.
And I working at, being an administrator at Centerpoint now, and I'm married and I have a kid. I just knew, it's funny that, I probably, when I was gone, I probably maybe subconsciously knew earlier on that I wanted to come back. And to be frank, I've never really wanted to leave.
Right.
I've never been happier than when I worked at Centerpoint as a caseworker or in the job that I have. I never really wanted to leave. I made decisions based on finances for my family, and it is what it is, But at the same time, when that day came where I kind of hit my breaking point, and my wife had been telling me for 3 months, "Hey, you need to make the phone call."
I could tell something's going on.
And it was like, okay, let me call Max. Let me call Miss Thelma. And luckily they welcomed me back, and I was able to come back fairly quickly. And then, like you said, within a few months, this position came available, and they asked me to apply, and it was just kind of like,
there it is.
Yeah, right. It was, like I said, it was just the affirmation that I needed, the confirmation that I needed, that I made the right decision. And to be honest with you, the way that I feel, my ability to do things like this is really all the confirmation I need. The minute I walked back into that building, I was like, yeah, this is it, And I have no intentions to leave, ever. I plan, obviously, just like anybody else, my goal is to be an integral part of that program until I no longer can, at whatever level that is. Whatever level Four Rivers will have me, I'll be there and be a part of it. That's just how much I believe in it. And to be someone who didn't come through there and be able to kind of see that from the outside looking in, to me, that just tells me, again, it's just confirmation how special that place really is.
100%.
Yeah, that's true. And to go back with what you talked about earlier, how like when you got hired on and you were in your, dressed up in the nines and guys don't know you, because a lot of people that work there and become caseworkers and stuff are usually guys who've come through peer mentor or had gone on. So whenever there was someone new, you, Dylan was one of them. I know I'm guilty of telling like, who is this guy?
Of course.
And we're all probably that's old behaviors, right?
Absolutely.
Judging people, sizing people up. Are they really one of us? But that's the thing about recovery, man. It doesn't, and addiction and all of it. It does not discriminate. It affects all different times of life. Money, no money. Race, sex, creed, all that is. And then you go in there, whether you're in Center Point and coming through there and being a part of the brotherhood, or you work there and everyone knows, figures out, he's one of us. You're instantly in the club because we realize we do have all these shared experiences, no matter where we came from or how we went through them. And that's what unites us, man. That's the beautiful thing about recovery, is that we're united in this terrible past and potential for beautiful future, and we're there to help each other through that process, man.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, once you're kind of a part of that the community as a whole, it provides an environment. And I say this all the time, I'm so grateful for this because the reality is I wasn't doing a real good job of living my life, whether we want to look at substances or not.
Right.
I never could really get a hold on how to live my life successfully. I would look at people and be like, man, why can't I just get up and go to work every day and come home? I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's only a couple places in the entire world that provide kind of like a blueprint for that. And recovery is one of them. It's like, so now, not only do I have steps to tell me how to get my life in order and to live it happily and happy, joyous, and free, I also have countless people in my life that I can look to, and if I'm humble enough to just do, either ask them or they say, hey, this is what I think you should do. If I follow in line with that, I can have what they have.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I find people, and that's the thing. Whether it's people that have been sober much longer than me, whether it's people that have been sober less than me, everybody's got something about them that I'd like to have.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to be the best version of Ian, humility brings me to, how did you do that or what did you do that? And I think recovery as a whole is super unique in that way, and it's worldwide.
Yeah.
It provides an environment and a program, step-by-step instructions on how to have a better life. Isn't that what, everybody wants?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it took me being an alcoholic and addict to be introduced to that. So if I look at it that way, there's got to be some gratitude in that.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what I've been through.
Right. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. You want to know something? My biggest issue with meetings is, despite their name, they're never about me. Here at Turning Point, all of our meetings are for you and about you. We have meetings at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We are located at 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky. Call 270-444-3621 for more information.
One thing I have always wondered is who put the alphabet in alphabetical order. At Turning Point, our goal is to help you put your life back in order. If you struggle or have struggled with substance use disorder and are in need of help, come see us at 415 Broadway Street, Paducah, Kentucky. Or call 270-444-3621 and sign up for peer support services with one of our friendly staff who have lived experience with addiction. Hope to see you soon.
And the fact about the people, man, that's my big thing right there. I love the people that I surround myself with in recovery. I'm always humble enough to realize I could do things better, for sure. And, you know, I have no problem asking if there's some ways I could do things better, or because I'm still fairly fresh in this. You know, there's going to be somewhere down the line I'm going to run across something that somebody's been through. Guarantee it. As many people as I know in this giant web of people living life. That's why I'm grateful for Centerpoint for sure. You know, you hit the nail on the head for me was the people.
Sure.
That did it for me, man. I was like, okay, you know, there's people out here that really do care. And even when I did not care,
right,
they were there.
Sure.
And I can never repay that. I can just always continually try to put back into it and give what they gave to me. Sure. And it's just been I've never separated from that. It's the people part for me.
Sure.
You know?
I say all the time, and I know I keep referring to treatment, but you know, that's the field in which I work, and I've been a few times myself, so I got I got a little bit of expertise in treatment. But I tell people all the time, you know, going to treatment at different places, working in different treatment environments, it's like, you know, you could go to treatment in a shack in the middle of the woods with no running water, and if the people that work there are loving and they care, it'll be a good place. And you could go to, you know, the hills of Malibu and go to $1 million facility, and if the people there don't care about you, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you know, and I've even said this about Centerpoint, you know, that's just a building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the
100%.
spirit of the program and the people that are within it are what make it what it is. You know, it's just a building on County Park Road.
Right.
Yeah.
But the program and the people are what establish its identity and why it's so, you know, widely known that it's a special place, you know, a spiritual place.
I agree.
Right. Just like you mentioned, you know, sitting in those staff meetings, being brought in and changed, that was Max, you know, the director of the program. And he was like the first person I really connected with when he did Toolbox Tuesday, which he used to do every Tuesday before he became director. He would tell it was the same thing every Tuesday, but it
always meant something though.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, I could have given it for him by the end of the program, you know, but it just, like the fact that he came in there in chains and now he's the director of the program and like and he's funny. Like, you know, you're instantly connected, man.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Chill, you know, he's got his Hawaiian shirt and his cigar. Like, but it's like people like that. He's just one of the many people throughout that program that you connected with and I connected with. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad that to have met you and be part of it and that you came back and that you're in the role that you're in. Like, I'm really glad that you're in the role that you're in.
Yeah,
you know?
It was exciting to hear that you were coming back. Right?
Yeah, because I know that you are sincere and real about this and have the best intentions and want to help people, and that's what Centerpoint needs more of, you know? And not that it's not there, but I'm saying, you know, I was really excited to have you back and to have you on the podcast, man.
I appreciate that, man. I couldn't be happier to be back. You know, I've been back probably close to, I don't know exactly, maybe like 4 months now, and I could just tell a big difference in just my overall serenity level and on the recovery, you know, thing, and then happiness level. And, you know, I know the people in my life, whether that be my wife or my little boy, like what my little boy might not could see it yet, but I'm more present, you know, I'm more consistent, and those, you know, I'm man enough to admit today, you know, that those things aren't constant. I kind of, you know, it's kind of on wavelengths, and I wish I could sit here and say, no matter what happens in my life, I'm the same, you know, and and that's just not my reality. I haven't got there yet. Maybe I never will, but like being back at Centerpoint and being able to do things there, you know, are whether they're work related or just in my free time, like that's what I like to do. That plays a big part in my life. Like those guys there know, and if they don't, you know, then I need to do a better job of. That's the way that I look at it. Those guys have to know that I care about them immensely, and I want for them so badly. And if they don't, I need to do a better job of showing them. It's not on him. and it's not on my sponsees. Yeah. Like I say, they've got to be willing to buy in, but at the same time, there's a lot that I can do better too.
Give them something to buy into.
That's right. I've got to.
100%.
I've got to.
Yeah.
And it's just the recovery in general is the way it's, there's so many ways to look at it. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. And it's the beautiful thing about Turning Point is, it allows for so many different avenues. If you even have an itch for any sort of recovery, you can walk into that building and be, catered to is not the right word, but there's services or there's people there that for you.
Right. If we don't offer it, we'll find someone that will. Exactly. And that's needed.
Oh, absolutely.
Just as more unity in the community is needed, and it has gotten a lot better in these last few years. It's always something that's going to need to be worked on. And going back, I wanted to touch on something else you said, because you were talking about how when you were making the decision to come back to Centerpoint, how that your wife was one of the ones that encouraged you to do that.
Absolutely.
We were joking before the podcast. I recently got married. Nathan pretends to be married, and but it's and you're married, and it's so important. And we're blessed to have these supportive people in our life like that. That
Absolutely.
She encouraged you to go back, even though it may not have seemed like the right financially the right thing to do.
Right.
But she knows if you're happy and you're doing something that's good for you, then you're gonna bring that home with you, into your child's life and everything. So,
long game.
And like you said, it's pretty amazing that her as not one of us, not someone that's in recovery could see that even before I do, and I mean, and I. There's a part of us that want to, especially being married and being in sort of like on the scale of support and how you establish your marriage and things like that. And that's something that I look a lot into. I put a lot of effort into as far as being a good husband. And I think that's a crucial part of this recovery thing. It's not just about staying sober, and I'm there. She knows that I'm 100% emotionally invested in those guys over there. So I need to provide the same thing for her.
Yeah.
And so for her to notice that in me, and I think like I said before, I think I noticed it, but there's a part of us as whether it be societal or whatever as men that it's like, look, I just need to bite down on the bullet and or maybe if I just give it a little bit more time, when in reality I'd given it, I gave it about a year to see how it would work out. Yeah. And I got to help a lot of people there, and that was my ultimate goal, and I enjoyed that. But my work-life balance, which is super important, my work recovery balance, which is super important, was all out of whack, and it affected me emotionally. It affected my ability to be present as a husband. It affected my ability to be present as a father, as bad as that hurts me to say.
Yeah.
But it did, and you have to come to the conclusion that, the hard decision is to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going to take a pay cut to go back to the job that makes me happy. That's the hard decision.
Yeah.
And I was able to catch it fairly early on, luckily.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, I can remember my last day at Centerpoint, the last go around. I was talking to all these people, and I was talking to Dylan and Ray, and I was like, I'll be back. I knew.
How many people said that to you, though?
Yeah.
Like that, you hear that all the time from people. I'll be back.
Yeah. I was like, but even I was like, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Like, I just knew. I was like, when the right position becomes available, because that was what I was doing at that time to convince myself that leaving was the right decision. It's like, well, when the right position comes available, I'll be back. And I was like, well, here I am. Positioner, I went right back to the job that I had before, happily.
But then the position probably that you wanted came open. Man, that's awesome, and I'm so happy for you. And
for real.
Yeah. Glad to have you back. Glad to be working with you. I know I got to get with you on this softball thing.
Absolutely.
I need to come up there, and I want to come up there at 3:00 class. Either I was going to try to do it today, but I think I'm going to do it Monday or Tuesday.
Sure.
And talk to them all about it and hang up the sign-up sheets and stuff, because that's going to be a fun event for them. Hopefully they'll get on board if they can stay off IRF.
Stay out of trouble.
Hopefully, things have been pretty smooth around there, knock on wood, as far as that goes. So maybe we'll be all right. But yeah, I briefly mentioned to a few guys that I know are going to want to play, but I mentioned to Max that I was like, I think Matt's going to come down and speak to, tell him, kind of let them all in on the details. But You know, that's another thing I love about Center Point is we do softball every year. That's some of the stuff I get to do in my free time that I enjoy.
Right.
That Center Point allows me to do. Like my job allows me to be able to coach a softball team and you know,
golf scramble,
do a picnic. Like, it's super cool and be involved in the community and, you know, do some cool things. You know, we partner with the Humane Society and go and walk dogs every week, twice a week. Like that's
I really wish that they'd done that when we went through. We were on quarantine lockdown. We didn't go anywhere, but that was like, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, super cool, man.
Very therapeutic for the guys.
Absolutely. I'm a big animal guy. I have dogs, so it's like that would have been right up my alley too.
Yeah.
You know, and we're volunteering at Community Kitchen, and we're volunteering at Starfish and doing some things with Goodwill. So it's like, it's just really cool to be involved, like in a place that impacts the community, like in something that I'm passionate about. You know, service as a whole, but especially service to people like me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, my wife and I are going through the adoption process now, and you know, I had to kind of write a synopsis of my career. And I was like, you know, well, how do I define this?
That's wild, yeah.
You know? And essentially what I came down to, it was like, you know, I've dedicated my professional life and a lot of my personal life to help people with issues that I've experienced in my own personal life.
Right.
And that's essentially what we do, and we're blessed enough to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another thing that I don't take for granted, you know. And going back, you know, kind of to what I said originally, when I went back into treatment the second time, and I made the decision that I was like, I think it would be beneficial if I pursued a career in this, maybe. Completely submerge myself in it.
Yeah.
Right.
To where I am today, you know, and at that point, my head was still spinning. It was like, I'm coming off a decent stint of sobriety, and I'm sitting there thinking, how in the world? Like, I'm back in treatment again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I've built this life, just like you said, and you know, never once caught myself thinking, oh, well, I'm going to throw this all away. It's like, you know, we'll worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is super cool. Like I said, I'm always interested in what you all are doing down at Turning Point. It kind of works in both in tandem and in contrast to what we do at Center Point, you know, and kind of, but again, just contributes to kind of the plethora of services and that we can offer the community and people in the community, you know, because, you know, I can recommend people down there, and you guys can, you know, send people to us for a more intensive long-term thing, you know, something like I needed.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, man, appreciate you coming on.
Man,
pleasure.
I appreciate it very much.
Check us out on YouTube or listen to our audio versions on Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music. And as always, stay grateful.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or in recovery and needs guidance, speak with Turning Point's team of peer support specialists by calling 270-444-3621. You are not alone, and we are proof that recovery is possible.